So at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Vice President Shettima echoed concerns over global security, pointing to flashpoints like Israel and Palestine, where recurring cycles of violence continue to shake the Middle East. He stressed the urgency of collective responsibility, warning that the cost of instability in one region ripple into others. But here at home, Nigerians are living through their own version of insecurity. Banditry in the northwest, insurgency in the northeast, and kidnappings spreading into the south that have claimed thousands of lives, displaced entire communities, and left the government struggling to reassure its people. The implication is clear. While Nigeria lends its voice to global debate on peace, the country itself remains a frontline test of whether words can be matched by action.
So this contradiction is not new. Nigeria has long positioned itself as a stabilizing force in Africa, from peacekeeping missions in Liberia and Sierra Leone, if you remember, from the 80s, to repeated calls for multilateral cooperation. Yet, internally, years of underfunded security operations, inconsistent strategies, and unkept political promises have left gaps that non-state actors. So, Nigerians are skeptical. However, joining us now to unpack these challenges are political and public affairs analyst Devo Okoye and public affairs analyst To Oseru Woja. You're welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Now, gentlemen, we're going to be focusing on Shettima's speech. I just wanted to reel out some of the points that he made from his very eloquent speech, by the way.
Yes.
He asked for renewed commitments to multilateralism, Nigeria's bid for permanent seat at the Security Council. Our previous guests touched on that. Debt relief, trade, mineral resource justice, closing the digital divide, and technology access and security, peacekeeping and human rights, as well as humanitarian stance on global conflicts and climate change. Now, gentlemen, we've heard all of these before. The problem, however, is bringing it back here to Nigeria, that we're asking for all of these, but yet we still have these niggling problems here in Nigeria. And I'm not talking about Africa. So the question is, what gives him the moral high ground to actually, well, talk about these things at UNGA if we still have these problems here? Let me start with you, Toro.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so if you say what gives him the courage or the impetus to make such a decision, I think I will align that with as an act of patriotism. As a patriotic citizen of Nigeria, I think I align myself with the position of of the president, of the vice president who represent Nigeria in that global platform. But also as a citizen, it's expected for we to be courageous enough to point out the loopholes or the hypocrisy in such kind of statements. So there are two things here. I align myself with all the position or all the assertion is making at that global platform on the ground of patriotism. Then on the ground of courage, I think I need to point out the fact that the vice president, just like any other Nigerian politician, use that platform as another means of campaign strategy. So in Nigeria, our politicians run within the circle of campaign rather than after campaign administration. So let's analyze some of the speech, particularly the issue of the security you point out. Truth be said that, okay, well, the position of Nigeria regarding to the Israel and Palestinians, this thing is valid as a matter of fact, but let's bring it back home. I've listened and I've read several debates on the reactions of both nations when it comes to that war. If you look at it locally, that is what is happening in Nigeria. And you agree with me, over time, you see people who come out courageously, who assert the fact that if a particular tribe, if one particular tribe lost a cow or one of their members is killed, they tend to wipe up the whole community where such a thing happened. So if you are saying that in a global trend regarding Israel and Palestine, we should also look that in Nigeria context, in the local context, and that is what is happening. We don't need to deny that fact, and you see people arguing that fact. Then on the other cross again, you still see on the quoted of a religion, you see people who say, oh, Israel are meant to be the children of God, and anything that happens to them, they go back in full force. So you could see the contradiction, not only in the side of our leaders, but in the side of our the masses or the citizen. Then let's look at it again. If you look at if you look at the issue of security, you discover that I believe that is part of the United Nations Assembly Protocol to applaud whatever is being said by any leader. Yeah, if it were to be a sincere gathering, I think, and they want to question Vice President Shettima regarding his speech, they will take him back to 1999 to date, during the transition from military era to democratic era. I will not in any way agree to the fact that it's as a result of low budgeting to security issues. I will align myself to the fact that we lack the political will. From Obasanjo, we have the issue of the Niger Delta, militancy, which crippled the economy in Niger Delta, which was partially settled by Yaradua. And when Yaradua and Goodluck Jonathan entered, we now have the issue of Boko Haram. Boko Haram sprang through the administration of Jonathan. Then when Buhari came in, we now have the issue of Fulani Esme or bandits. So you could see that as the day goes by, as transmission of administration, our insecurity level is changing a different dimension with different name. Then now we are in Obasanjo, we are in a Tinubu era now. It's a mixture of bandits, is a mixture of Boko Haram. So it's a combination of, you could see the unrest in the southeast now. So these are issues that needed to be looked at when drafting such a speech. So I will not in any way applaud the statement of the vice president, but I think I align myself with it as a citizen.
Right. So, Devo, I think for me, Shettima warned about, our Vice President Shettima warned about fake news, warned about distrust and tech gaps in a country like Nigeria where misinformation is rampant and we're never really sure of what they're saying. How visible is it for Nigeria to close the digital divide and ensure that tech is a force for unity rather than division?
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. We're discussing Nigeria's security realities meeting the global insecurity. Basically, all the issues that Nigeria took to hunger. But for me, and I don't like to beat around the bush or skirt on ice, our presence at UNGA is all about foreign relations, foreign policy. And for almost 2 decades now, since Obasanjo's era, which was the last time that Nigeria had proper representation and actually an actual foreign policy that people could connect the dots to, our foreign policy has dittered, has almost gone south. No, it has gone south, because if you take a look at the position whereby in 180 countries that Nigeria has foreign embassies and diplomatic presence, we don't have ambassadors. So a lot is to be said, because foreign policy is, would I call it, the second most strategic weapon or arm that any government has in meeting its own objectives. And you must understand the background to foreign policy. No country operates or lives in isolation. Even America, even the G7 countries, they all recognize they don't live in isolation. Their people, their goods, their product, their services interrelate, interact, depending on the level of dominance and advancement they want to achieve. They all know this. So you must have a foreign policy. You must have a strong strategy. What you cannot achieve through your own means, through your own resources, foreign policy, either through a bilateral conversation, agreement, or multilateral positioning, that's how you get it. And the job starts at home. Mm-hmm. So to a large extent, everything that was said at UNGA, as with your question, in terms of either disinformation, Security Council seats, we have to drink our own medicine. We have to drink our own medicine as a country. What have we done? Because the job in foreign policy, when you talk of diplomacy, you talk of reciprocity, meaning you do for me, I do for you. So where have we on our own set up some of these engagements with other countries so that when we get to platforms like the United Nations, it's a step away from what is already on ground, okay? take a look at all the factors and all the indices that our foreign policy has ever been based on. At some point, like I said, from Obasanjo's time, we were the regional power. We were also a continental force in many of the issues, in resolving many of the conflicts in Africa. Since Obasanjo's time, that was 2007, that's about 20 years, roughly 18. What has happened? We've lost face, we've lost relevance, we've lost that force. I mean, the breakdown of the Sahel states, that's Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, are a direct, Niger, who is even our border neighbor, is a direct indicator as to why the United Nations might question why are we still pushing for a Security Council seats. To the extent of, oh, Africa is included, which was the joke that the Vice President cracked on behalf of the President about what AI means. How far, before you even discuss AI, you need to discuss your broadband policy. How have you connected your country, working with the government and the private sector? They've said that anywhere that broadband exists, you multiply your GDP times 4, because you can see what's not just social media, but the internet connection and how it has improved education, how it has improved transportation, how it has improved meetings, man-hour loss, etc., economic emancipation, empowerment for those, a country that is the poverty capital of the world. We have to get real and drink our own medicine. It is when we start to do the needful here in Nigeria, in ECOWAS, in West Africa, in Africa, then we won't be begging for attention. We won't be begging for relevance. They will be the one offering us.
Devo, I want to jump on something. Devo, I want to jump on something you just said. You just used that phrase, yes. We have to drink our own medicine. And that falls right into place with the next question I want to ask you. Now, Kashim Shettima, he argued that mineral-rich nations must benefit directly from these minerals instead of just simply export them. Let's take a look at minerals that Nigeria actually possesses and that we export. There's crude oil, natural gas. We only have the Dangote refinery at this point. We have tin, historically mined in Plateau State, exported largely in raw form to other countries. Cobalt and tantalite. We have gold mined in Zamfara, Osun, Kebbi. Much of it leaves informally to other nations. There's lead, there's zinc, there's iron ore. Exported raw or semi-processed, since a Ajaokuta steel project still does not work. So the question now is, exactly how realistic is this goal when he asks the UN to let African countries enjoy their resources, whether in terms of the minerals itself or job opportunities? How realistic is that when you talk about drinking our own medicine, Devo?
Yeah, but that's just the point. We've not done the needful at home. We've not done the needful with the little that we have. I mean, the solid mineral minister, Dele Alake, was right front and center in that meeting. Now, like I told you, the United Nations is not where you begin to introduce ideas. The United Nations is where you simply present to the rest of the world what you have been doing. Now, even though he received an award as someone who has pushed mineral development further, I think that was a bit of politics, because we know in this country, at this point in time, solid mineral development, both extraction and processing, should have been at the level of oil and gas, the oil and gas industry. Before oil and gas was discovered in this country, it was solid mineral extraction that kept us going. Now, if ditto the agricultural ministry and investment. The point is, remember, you can't even fool the international public. They all have their embassies and their high commissions in Nigeria. So you can't go outside and tell them, well, I wear white clothes all the time. But the truth is, there are people in your country know that your clothes are stained. So the point is, we all know that a lot of the insecurity in this country, that's Nigeria, is a function of the, what I call it, the catastrophe of solid mineral extraction taking place, especially in the north, in many cities, in many villages, etc., without being recorded as national income, okay?
Yep.
Being carried out, that's where they employ the use of these bandits, what do you call it, insurgents. When you hear of all the insurgency in the northeast, Borno State, etc., and co. The real story is about the illicit extraction of uranium, the illicit extraction of californium, the illicit extraction of lithium. When you go to the northwest, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, Jigawa, you start to hear the illicit extraction of tin, copper, some of the minerals that you have listened to. Come down to the north central. A lot of illicit extraction is taking place. This is Nigeria's commonwealth. This is our ticket to growing and developing our nations. If we have not dealt with that, if we haven't put in place the proper processes and what I call it frameworks, because if you check the bill, the last time I checked, to build a copper mine, it costs about $10 billion. Okay, now the point is the government may not have $10 billion on their budgets, but you have foreign companies that do. So the question is, what private sector, public-private sector engagement has taken place to ensure that we work with foreign companies to be able to bring the best out of our country, employ our people, educate them, lift them out of poverty, and make a buck for the country. You can see what happened in LNG. It's not just Nigerian companies that are in LNG. You have the operating international companies, and then you have the Nigerian gas investments as part of it. You see the success they've done. You see how they brought life and revenue into the Nigerian system. Well, we couldn't do that in oil and gas. It took the Dangote refinery with 20 billion support to be able to give you what we have at the moment. We have even 10 times, 50 times the capacity in solid mineral production. This is where you build your foreign policy. By now, I should have Dele Alake should be the most powerful minister in the Nigerian government because of the potential that comes with the solid mineral factor. And how, because like I said, foreign policies, you rub my back, I rub yours. Okay, I have deposits. You have mineral capacity extraction, you've been known for it. Okay, let's do a deal. The same thing we have done in oil and gas. The same thing we have done with telecoms. Well, power still needs intervention. But the point is, we have failed in the areas that we should build a powerful foreign policy, what I call it, stance. Take a look at West Africa. We keep hearing problems that even now, Ghana is chasing Nigerians away. As a former regional strong body, how did we lose our influence? Right. Okay? Some of these people they're not just junior brothers. They're like grandchildren to Nigeria. I hope you know that anywhere in Africa, and even internationally, where once other Africans see Nigerians, they step back. Hello, let me repeat myself. When other Africans see Nigerians at international forums, they step back because you need to travel around Africa to confirm yourself that the Nigerian is the superior African. Why? Because of our doggedness, because of our ability to deliver, because of our volume in terms of population, because of the GDP levels which have suffered. So most of Africa feels bad and horrible that, our big brother is slacking. Our big brother is not delivering as they should. And we know this ourselves, okay? We know this ourselves.
All right,
so
then, Devo.
Enough of the whitewashing. We need to get to work. We need to task our leadership. We need to. It's not about the president traveling around to different countries. He has a 45-man cabinet. I expect the foreign minister to be the one traveling, not the president. Those are the people that do the work. Get things in place so that the president can come and drink tea with the other president and sign. But things must be in place. I can't. There's too much to be said about foreign policy.
That's not your passion. Your passion is shown.
Quite. Thank you so much, Devo, for that. Now, my question would be to Towo. Based on all the conversation concerning the speech from Vice President Shettima, we're seeing that, the comments are like, why are you focusing on insecurity in the global level when right here, the issues in Nigeria, it's like they say, remove the sand in your eye before removing the stone in someone else's eye. So given global uncertainty, there is war, there's climate shock, fragile economies. What risk really is Nigeria taking by focusing heavily on global reform rather than doubling down on, our internal security reforms here? Towo, please.
So the risk we are taking is the fact that we don't really know what we have, and we don't know the problem we are in currently. And I believe that the speech of the president and the speech of the vice president was drafted as a result of high level of ignorance or as a result of political patronage within the international community. And if you look at the risks particularly, you discover that particularly his assertion. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, particularly his assertion in the fight between the Gaza and the Palestine, between Israel and the Palestine or in Gaza. He discovered that it has caused another. For me, Nigeria would have been a bit diplomatic in that regard, knowing fully where there are lapses back home. And you also understand that, just like I stated earlier, is the fact that we don't understand when we play politics and when administrative mind comes into play or administrative diplomacy comes into play. The level of insecurity in Nigeria, you discover that is self-inflicted. And I will not in any way agree to the fact that the vice president is aligning it to issue of regional breakdown and other stuff. Then you also understand that the issue of economy is self-inflated, and you can see what is going on at the level of corruption, which is alarming. As a matter of fact, is a signpost to when you talk about Nigeria as a country. Then you talk about the global warming or the issue of environment. Just this week, you discovered the flood in Lagos and other areas. This is an ongoing issue. And you see, as a government or as a nation, there have never been any policy to the fact that this is an issue that can be resolved. If we have the political will, it can be resolved. And I want to draw your attention to Nigerian leaders, basically Nigerian leaders. You discover that while other nations or other leaders of their country make their foreign policy known in their territory, within their territory, when addressing or welcoming guests, we will go out to make our foreign policy or to misstate our foreign policy. And we won't be surprised, and I'm surprised that most of the things said by the vice president as part of Nigeria aim and goal is quite different from majority of Nigerians got to hear for the first time in that event. So which is sad. So you discover that for that purpose of the event, that is where the statement was made. Then when they come back to Nigeria, we will now say, okay, the Nigeria of our dream, or the Nigeria what we think Nigeria should be. So if you look at it from all circles, one, you discover that there's been a silent issue between Nigeria and US, and you could see that US has taken a stand when it comes to that issue, that war or that crisis, and Nigeria coming out to make such a statement, knowing fully well that similar things in a smaller scale is happening in their country without them resolving it is a problem and is a high risk. And we should be rest assured that more international relationship between Nigeria and other countries will be at stake in regard to some of the statements made by the vice president.
Okay,
well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We unfortunately have crossed into the next hour, which we shouldn't have, but I wish that we could have had this conversation ongoing. I had so many questions regarding AI misinformation. And please, Devo, if the vice president wants to try out comedy, I think we should let him. His crack on AI, Africa included, was spot on, and I give him an A. So please leave my vice president alone. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your contributions here this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.